we're here to share information, not only about the techniques, but also about the artists themselves, maybe their inspiration. And that allows the customer to be a little closer to the artist and the work that they produce.
Hello, everyone. It's Sean from Thrive with another episode of the Power Up, where I meet with successful small business owners and operators to learn about their business strategy so you can take their insights and level up your own business. Once your business is ready to expand, knowing where to start can be overwhelming. Our guests have some creative solutions for how they've tackled tricky problems and turned them into growth opportunities. Now, let's dive into today's episode. All right. Hello, everyone. Our guest today is Marlo Miyashiro. She's the co-owner and managing director of the Handmade Showroom and Bezel and Kiln in Seattle, Washington. Marlo sold her own jewelry on Etsy and led the Etsy sellers team in Seattle for about 10 years before opening her own store. Now she curates the best handmade gifts, accessories, and home decor for over 250 artists across the United States and abroad for her retail store. Marlo and her team are continually evolving the business for long-term growth. They have successfully managed a 2-year building renovation, the global pandemic, moving into their fourth storefront in 8 years, and most recently merging their two stores into one location. So, Marlo, you ready to get started?
Sure. Yep. It's a lot.
All right. It is a lot. Well, let's dig in and see what we got going for us. So first question for me is, I think you're the first person I've ever met that's led any sort of Etsy sellers team. So share a little bit about that experience. I'm sure, our audience has personally not been involved in that before.
Yeah. I mean, Etsy, this was a while ago, early 2000s. So, a friend of mine kind of started an online Etsy sellers team. I went in there and I was like, hey, let's have community events and let's have meetings and things like that. She was like, do you want to just do it? So I just kind of took over. And it was great. We grew the group to about 1,500 members all over Western Washington. We put together, me and my leadership team put together a lot of craft shows, eventually working up to like 100 vendor craft shows in the city, and lots of educational events, just kind of social get-togethers, and just kind of connecting the Etsy sellers that were in the Seattle area. It was a really great time. A lot of really great community happened, a lot of good connections and people collaborating, through all of that. So yeah, that was a good 10 years of just volunteering my time to be around community and to be around people who are creative and are pursuing creative businesses. Yeah.
That's great. Did so I know the Etsy sellers community was, like an impetus for starting your own store. So did you take or were you able to use any of those 1,500 members in your own venture? Because you said there's 250 artists across the US involved in the handmade showroom. Are any of those
Mhm.
part of the Etsy community?
Yeah, when we first started in 2015, we were a pop-up store. So kind of temporary. We were planning on really just weekends, kind of taking it easy. I mean, I had sort of dreamed about opening a store my entire life. Like I put price tags on my stuff in my room and made my mom shop in my store in my room and everything. So, everything that I've done has sort of led up to this point where I was ready to have a storefront and just kind of showcase the best in handmade that I could find. I had a full business plan, and it was just kind of a fluke that Pacific Place, the marketing director at the time, reached out to our Etsy group and was like, hey, do you want to do a pop-up? So we did that. We started with about 35 artists from our immediate community, and that eventually grew into like 50, then 100, and then we moved spaces quite a few
Mhm.
times in bigger and smaller spaces. And right now we're in I think it's 4,000 square feet about
Oh, wow.
in our,
Mhm.
our current space. It's the biggest space we've had so far. And so that allowed us to grow the handmade showroom to around 200 artists from all over the US. And Bezel and Kiln has another 50, 60 artists that are kind of international. So yeah.
That's great. So how do you go about, sourcing artists? Because, I'm sure you can't have every artist in the world in there, but you want to, but how do you go about, like, is it like, do you think about profitability per artist? Do you think about, complementary products with other artists like in the shop? Like, so what do you do in that process?
Yeah, well, we definitely have categories in our store. So we have kind of personal accessories like bags, and then we have jewelry, housewares like kitchenware kind of thing. We have wearables. So we have mostly t-shirts by independent artists, and a lot of toys like stuffed animals and little like wood blocks and things like that for kids, toddlers, and infants. So whenever we're sort of looking to refresh a particular category, I will look specifically for, like right now, I am looking for a new line of baby slash infant gifts. They're pretty hard to find. So, in our criteria, which is it needs to be designed and produced by the artist.
Mm,
And so, we're very specific in the kinds of things that we look for. So wherever we search, I use Fair a lot, searching for
okay.
specifically made in the US. But I also am on Instagram all the time. So I'll reach out to artists that I find and hope that, they're available to sell wholesale to a store.
That's great. So are you doing this on consignment, or what's the actual like the model between you and the artist itself?
Yeah, when we first started out, 100% consignment. And we do a 50-50 split, and we don't require any fees or, work hours or anything like that. We take care of all of the operations. And as we grew, the goal was to get to more wholesale as soon as possible. So it probably took us
Mm,
about 2 years to get to 50-50, and now we're about 90% wholesale. We do have a few artists who prefer to be on consignment because they're able to
okay.
sort of give us a lot of different kinds of goods and experiment with their customers and stuff like that. And it's really fun because it keeps a lot of their inventory fresh that way too.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, a lot of folks in our audience have this not the exact type of model, but they have, maybe one or the other or some kind of blend, right? If you were to talk to someone that's thinking about getting into a similar business, as a consignment or wholesale, like what would be some, piece of advice or thought process as to why consignment or why wholesale or, why go this way at some point in some time, right? To switch to the other model, what would be something you think about?
Yeah. Well, having been an artist myself, working with stores directly, selling my own jewelry, I knew a lot of the artist side of what I wanted and what I preferred. And the biggest issue for me when I was a consigning artist was reporting, getting back the information, the specific information about the things that we sell, and, the like the very specific kinds of items that I would sell. Oftentimes, people would just send me a check, and I would have really no idea how much inventory was left or how it was doing. So,
Mm,
we do all of that. We have excellent reporting. We allow our artists to take their own inventory back whenever they need it. Um, that doesn't happen very often, but sometimes people need a little extra for their show, craft shows, or something like that. And
hmm
the reporting aspect of it is so important. We just try to keep in really good communication with our artists, and definitely let them know where their inventory is at any given time. And that's the consignment side of it. The benefit of having consignment is, you don't have that cash outlay at, up front. But it
hmm
is a really, really big responsibility. When we were starting to transition to buying wholesale, we realized that, we saved a lot of time by not having to do monthly reports, specific reports to all of our artists. And it went from, taking pretty much all day to run the reports and to send them all out. And now it takes a couple hours because we just have a handful on consignment. So, wholesale is definitely more of a risk up front. But we're really careful about the mix of products that we carry. And we really listen to our customers and how they respond to things. And really the buying is coming from one point of view. It's coming from my point of view. So it seems that our customer base responds to that also. There's like a cohesiveness of quality that runs through all of the items that we have. And we oftentimes get really nice response of, wow, everything is in here is really nice. Like it's really,
Yeah,
it's really high quality. So yeah, we pride ourselves in that for sure.
great. Um, so as far as like your wholesale tool belt, so I know wholesale technology and wholesale tools are a little sparse sometimes. We've seen that, and I'm sure you probably have too. You mentioned Fair. Are there any other like essential tools that you have for, you know, sourcing product or managing your wholesale side of your business that is maybe different than traditional retail?
Well, we definitely interact with our vendors, our artists, probably more than a traditional retail store, because we have that personal connection. We want to share our artist stories with our customers. And in fact, that's probably one of the biggest differentiators on how we kind of run our retail store in general, is that we sort of see ourselves as maybe docents of the items that we carry. And so we're here to share information, not only about the techniques, but also about the artists themselves, maybe their inspiration. And that allows the customer to be a little closer to the artist and the work that they produce. It's really a meaningful exchange, because of course we know that supporting small businesses is really, really important. And so by supporting us and buying through us, we're able to continue to support all of the artists that we work with. And I think our customer really appreciates that too.
Yeah. Do you so on the artist story side of the fence, so you said you like to share the stories with your customers. Um, Probably really hard to measure the impact of that, I would assume, but do you feel like or notice that by sharing the stories of the wholesalers that you're purchasing product from, do you feel like the customers that you sell to are connecting with your business or connecting with the artists more? And like, is that something, if there's someone listening to this right now and they're not actively doing it, should they do it and how should they implement something like that?
I highly recommend it. It's difficult sometimes because our assumption is that when somebody walks into a store, they want to be left alone, they want to shop quietly, and many people do. But we want to make sure that they understand sort of the reason we exist. So we welcome them in, we introduce the concept of the store, that we work directly with all of the artists, that each display is the artist collection, so they get to see everything together. And there we have little signs with the name and location of the artist as well, so they kind of know what they're getting into when they're looking at all of this very, very different product on the shelves. And by kind of offering that information, and then when they show an interest in something, we can say, oh, did you know that that line of plush animals, she actually names them and gives them little
Mm,
hobbies and has a birth date written on the tag, so they can
hmm.
interact with the piece, maybe something they wouldn't have thought to do because you don't always pick everything up that you're interested in. So we encourage people to interact with the merchandise. We definitely are there to help find sizes and things like that for the shirts. And yeah, we just try to be helpful. And in fact,
Hmm.
we call our employees helpers instead of employees,
Have fun.
because that is the main job, is to help and to be helpful and just share information. Everything after that, the sale just happens naturally, because either they're looking for a gift for a specific person, or maybe they found something that they didn't know existed at all, and they have to have it in their life because it makes them happy. And that's our overarching theme, is we want people to leave a little bit happier than they came in, so it
Yeah, that's
works.
great. Yeah. Do you, like you said, and I tend, for me, it's a coin flip on the day, if I'd like to be left alone or if I'd like to, chat with someone on, something I'm looking at. But you do definitely notice the difference between stores that, put the, customer service first with, having someone approach you versus not.
Mhm.
So I would assume you're probably, based on what I'm hearing, in that, customer service first, going up and talking to the shopper. So are you training your employees to, like what's your training process like? Do you tell them like, hey, everyone that walks in, go and say hi to them? Do you have someone sitting at the front of the store? Like, what's that like? Is it like the Chick-fil-A model and, happy to serve you, thanks for, your credit card and all that kind of thing. What do you do?
Yeah, well, we orient them to the different areas in the shop because we have our different categories in different areas. And then we have a very, very thick binder of printouts of the artist's website and background
Mm,
information, whatever information we can get to help the helpers understand more of the background of everything they're looking at. And it's more about sharing information and having a conversation rather than selling, because the intention is really to support the artist and to kind of lift the artist up and make them the forefront of everything that we're doing. And that always leads to people connecting. So, we don't worry too much about the sales part of it.
yeah,
It's more of a communication.
sure. That's great. Do you I've talked to some other businesses recently, and they've all actually identified and they all had the same recently hot product, which I thought was really interesting. But have you noticed any particularly hot items or categories right now in the last like month or so? Anything come to mind for you?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's been going on a little while now, but mushrooms are still pretty big.
Mushrooms. That is
Mushrooms
so
as a
funny.
theme,
Yeah. Okay.
cottage core
Uh-huh.
is like a really big
Yeah.
thing. I think it's an extension of, the fantasy genre. We started carrying a few more sort of tabletop game theme type things, which are kind of nice. And yeah, I mean, we we don't necessarily look for trends like the traditional wholesale trends that are out there, because our artists are really they're following their own creative path, their creative journey, and so we kind of look at what they have to offer and where we can fit particular products from their line into our categories. So it's less for us, it's less looking for the trendy thing, and it's more looking for something that people will connect with and want to take home.
Yeah, that's it's so funny you said mushrooms and tabletop games. I was just out in Asheville, North Carolina this last weekend, and there was like a trinket and kind of just a general retail shop on the main strip there, and they had a whole section for cottage core and mushrooms. And
Yeah.
the people I was with were like, "Wow, there's a lot of mushrooms here for some reason," and gnomes too. I saw there's a lot of gnomes right next to the mushroom section, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so interesting.
It's still
Uh,
pretty hot. I mean, I think there's probably something else coming down the pipeline.
okay,
And yeah, oftentimes we'll just look to Etsy or to Instagram and just sort of see where things are kind of headed. I'm
yeah,
probably going to slow down on the mushrooms pretty soon, but I mean, they're cute. You can't help it.
yeah.
They're really cute.
No, and if they sell, they sell. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap up. I have five pretty much rapid fire questions, pretty quick ones, and then we'll be done for the day. So, number one is what is your fastest growing sales or marketing channel?
Definitely Instagram. We have been putting a lot of effort into social media. I just hired a new communications director that's helping us kind of grow those channels. And Instagram is where we're focusing a lot of our attention right now. It used to be Facebook, but now Instagram is
Okay.
definitely more engaging. Yeah.
Are you using Instagram to sell on, like, are you using the like shopping tool or are you using it only for advertising?
We do have the shopping checkout connected.
Okay.
That's going to be required pretty soon, but we do have our stores connected that way. It just seems like it's easier for people to purchase, less clicks, so it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Number two, what's your favorite resource? It can be like a blog or a YouTube channel or a book or anything like that to use for you to grow your skills or to grow your business.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. Gosh, what is the? I'm trying to think of the different podcasts that I listen to. Um, yeah, it's if honestly, if we didn't have our inventory control with Thrive, like we would be completely lost. We rely on it so much. The reporting is amazing, and yeah, we enjoy having just one place where we can do everything, and it kind of goes through all of the different channels because we have two separate websites, one
Hmm.
inventory, and we have to control all of it, including the in-store sales. So yeah, it's really great.
Good. Number four, what piece of advice do you have for business owners that are ready to start growing their business?
Oh gosh, be brave. Be brave. And, you know, right now we're in Q1 and it's this big roller coaster of a quarter that you're not really sure where it's going to go. You're trying to predict a lot of things. You're looking at the previous year, and the last few years honestly have been so weird. Is that we're trying to figure out like what a normal year is actually going to look like now. So, just keeping track of those numbers and reminding yourself that, things change very quickly in the retail industry. So we kind of have to be like a boat just floating on the waves, going through
Yeah.
it all, and just doing our best to just keep everything above water. So everybody feels that, everybody goes through the same thing, and it's nice to have podcasts like this to sort of reassure
Hmm.
you that you're not the only one feeling that the big roller coaster dip at times.
Totally. Yeah. Be like a boat and float on the waves. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, last question. This is the hardest one, but time for you to plug yourself. Where can our listeners find you?
Yep. So thehandmadeshowroom.com. Our first name is the, and
Okay.
that's our main website. And we also have our art jewelry and fine housewares collection with Bezel and Kiln.com. And bezel referring to the piece of metal that's around a stone or a watch face, and kiln is the very hot oven that ceramicists use to finish their work. So, yeah, those two places are the main things. We're on Instagram and Facebook at the Handmade Showroom. And yeah, we've got contact information on our website too. So I'm always open to speaking with other retail shop owners if they're interested.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Marla. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Power Up by Thrive. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into strategies that you can use to grow your business. If you're ready to take these ideas into the real world, head over to thrivemetrics.com. That's THRIVEMETRICS.com to sign up for a 30-day free trial of our business management software.